Hello there, my very good friends. Andy here for WhatCulture Wrestling. SummerSlam is in the books. It was the biggest one of these of all time because it was 2 nights. It was absolutely huge. And because it was a bigger pay-per-view than usual, we are doing more videos than usual. So, as we kind of continue wrapping up the fallout from this big time show that had like 110,000 people at it, here are 10 new directions for WWE following SummerSlam 2025. Entry number 10 is Charlotte Flair and Alexa Bliss ruling the women's tag division for now. The for now is there because someday they're probably going to have an argument, split up and feud. That tends to be how these odd couple tag teams work. They coexist until they cannot anymore. Alexa Bliss said on last night's episode of Raw, in fact, you're stuck with me while we've got the belts until we lose them. So while they have been successful so far in fending off the Judgment Day, eventually it will come to a natural endpoint. Surprisingly over as hell so far, though. Like, sometimes you stumble on these odd couple tag teams, and yeah, they've been done a lot over the years, but sometimes they just work. I think the reception that Charlotte got at Evolution was a very pleasant surprise and a great sign for the future of this team, which is off to a good start and is extremely over with the WWE fan base. I think you should just ride the wave with them for as long as they are getting those positive reactions. So for now, they are rock solid. Maybe they're even going to have an earnest hug, not just one of the awkward ones they've been cheering so far. Maybe Charlotte will even call Alexa her friend at some point. Wouldn't that be nice? Friendship for all. Yes, good. Up next on the list is entry number 9, Jade Cargle going heel. It seems that Jade is heading in a different direction after a very clean loss to Tiffany Stratton at SummerSlam. Pretty surprising the way that match played out. Not necessarily the result, but just how clean it was and how decisive Tiffany's victory over Jade was. Jade looked pretty despondent after the bell. I mean, look at the picture, kind of says everything you need to know. She's also kind of tweeted a bit ambiguously about how you asked for this or something similar following the show. So it appears as though this loss will be used to spark something. A heel run might make sense. Obviously, she's been feuding with Naomi extensively over the past few months, and if you want to revisit that, you'd probably need to turn Naomi, which isn't the best idea in the world because she's doing pretty well as a heel at the moment. But Jade probably needs something new. Look, she's been doing a babyface act since she came in to WWE, and she's been a heel in AEW before. We know she can kind of get over and stay over in that role. Somebody who just needs a new direction, like the title of this video, coming out of SummerSlam, and you can eat a loss if it leads to something meaningful. There's no such thing as, you can't lose. If you tell the right story in the aftermath, almost anyone can lose in any situation. So while Jade has been very heavily protected in WWE so far, I think this one is actually leading somewhere. Entry number 8 is Legends versus the Wyatt 6. Now, I'm pretty sure the main reason that the Hardy Boys and the Dudley Boys were shown on camera before the Tag Team TLC crazy match was to point out that they're going to wrestle each other soon. Those two teams are going to wrestle each other soon in 2025 over in TNA. But at the same time, I feel like there's a bit of WWE foreshadowing going on here as well. Now, I don't know about the Dudley Boys. I'm not too sure about, Devon's he's had a lot of back problems and stuff like that. I don't know if he's going to wrestle more than once again in his career. He's obviously going to do this match in TNA, but beyond that, I'm not sure. But the Hardy Boys putting over a younger tag team on the WWE roster would make a lot of sense. And the Wyatt 6 have the belts at the moment, so why not them? There's also a nice little through line there, story-wise. Matt Hardy was, of course, Bray Wyatt's tag team partner as one of the Deleters of Worlds for a while, which was a fun little kind of side quest for Bray at that stage in his career. So that kind of ties them together. It's quite neat. It's quite tidy. And look, the Hardys are in TNA. You've got that working relationship. You should at least use them to put over a couple more younger teams while they can still go. Number 7 is WWE strapping Braun Breaker to a rocket and shooting him into the stratosphere. Not literally, that would be incredibly irresponsible. You cannot send a man into orbit without ensuring he has the correct apparatus. I'm talking about his push in WWE. Yes, Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed lost to Jey Uso and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam, but the stable is still in the ascendancy. Seth Rollins is the world champion. They're making moves. They just crushed Roman Reigns and stole his shoes again on Raw this week. So there's a lot of promise to be had here. Breaker in particular is definitely being positioned as the breakout single star of this faction. The Vision, are we calling it that now? Have we settled on that? I'm not terribly sure. Either way, look, it's been pretty clear from his first NXT match that this guy's pretty special. He's got a kind of magnetism and a charisma to him, and he's put it together in the ring and in terms of folding his character into his work, the way he kind of mocks his opponents while he's controlling them. It's proper dumb jock Steiner energy. It's really great stuff, earnestly so. I think he's also one of the most physically impressive athletes in WWE history. I mean, that spear is just completely absurd, especially when he charges down the entire length of the ramp to just destroy somebody with it. So Braun's going to the top. I would probably be looking at maybe a tag title run for him and Bronson Reed at some point. Total dominant Road Warrior style, just beating people up, crushing the competition. I'd go for that. Bit of a different style to the one that is often purveyed in WWE. Bit more dominant, bit more one-sided. I think that would be really good before eventually, somewhere down the line, we get to the singles push. And I'd be very surprised if this man wasn't in world title contendership in, I don't know, a year or something like that. Entry number 6 here is the end of the Judgment Day / a babyface turn for Dominic Mysterio, because I think that that's how things might shake out as this story progresses. We know that there's going to be some, well, I mean, there's been tension in this group basically since it formed, because they kicked Edge's face out of there, his big purple head out of there very quickly early on. And they've since cycled through a lot of different members, from Rhea Ripley to Damian Priest to Carlito. And now we have tension, of course, with Dominic, Liv Morgan, who's currently out, Roxanne Perez, all of that stuff. That's going to come to a head when Liv comes back, and there'll probably be some bigger fractures in the group. But at the same time, Dominic has these moments where he is treated as a babyface, despite being a little pest of a man, of a human being, loosening up his boot so that it slides off in a calf crusher. What's going on? But yeah, look, at WrestleMania, it seemed very much like he was going to be an accidental face turn, one of them classic moments where it's just totally organic. He was chanted for and cheered again at SummerSlam. You could say that maybe these are kind of bizarro crowds because they're such huge events and there's 50,000, 60,000 people there, but sooner rather than later, he's probably going to end up down that route. He gave an interview recently, actually, where he said when it does happen, if he does go babyface, he wants it to be organic rather than just some forced moment with a capital M. So who knows? If he keeps trending in this direction, however, eventually, we see it all the time with heels. Sometimes they're just too much fun to boo forever. I think Dominic has slid into that category, so definitely one to watch. Number 5 is Jelly Roll returns. Will he wrestle again? Not terribly sure, but the man has offered to cover Voices, Randy Orton's entrance theme. It sounds like Randy's up for it, so at the very least, we'll probably get some kind of live performance of that maybe in the future. I'm not sure. But either way, him and Randy, of course, they wrestled Drew McIntyre and Logan Paul. At SummerSlam, they lost, which is quite surprising. Usually when you bring in a celebrity to work for you, they typically go over, especially in tag matches where they don't necessarily need to get the pin and all that stuff. But no, Jelly Roll did business, brother. He came into town and his shoulders were pinned to the mat, and that was that. Will they run him back again in the ring? I mean, I wouldn't rule it out completely. Look, the bar for these celebrity matches is pretty high. I think he did just enough. I don't think it was like in the upper echelon. Like the, who we putting in that tier? Like the Bad Bunny, Andy Kaufman kind of tier of celebrity performances in pro wrestling. But, you know, solid enough. He got his ass beat for most of the match, and then he did a few moves towards the end. Choke slam, black hole slam, all of that stuff. So, hey, look, the guy loves it. The guy absolutely loves it. So if he's given the chance to do it again, you absolutely know he's going to jump at it. Number 4 is Nikki Bella versus Becky Lynch. This one kind of kicked off on Raw. In-ring confrontation between the two. Becky dropped a scorcher of a line about John Cena and Nikki's former relationship and all of that stuff. Personal already, cutting already. Becky's got the new theme music. Her presentation is shaken up a little bit. I think this heel character is a bit more effective than the big-time Bex character she was doing a couple of years ago. So it's good stuff. We've seen through the Lyra Valkyria feud that she is still more than capable of elevating not only Lyra, but the Women's Intercontinental title at the same time. She's doing really good work. In 2025 is Becky Lynch. She's probably got another Bayley match coming at some point. Bayley has been very clear about the business not being over and all of this stuff, and she was involved in the match at SummerSlam as well, as Becky beat Lyra and won the feud. But it looks like Nikki is next up. And look, Nikki has always been a really solid wrestler. Not always. She had to work to get to that point. That was the wrong way of phrasing this, you know. She wasn't at the beginning, maybe not, but, you know, as she progressed through her career, she worked really hard and definitely improved. And she's got, actually, I know it's a meme, but forearm's pretty solid. The elbow's pretty solid. So yeah, we'll see. Not too sure if they'll throw this one on a PLE, not a PPV, or weekly television. Maybe throw Bayley into the mix, make it a triple threat. I'm not sure. Triple H loves a triple threat match. We know that. But either way, this match is coming, and it's probably coming quite soon. Number 3 is CM Punk ending Seth Rollins, specifically his reign. Not like compromising him to a permanent end. I mean, taking the World Heavyweight title from him. That will probably be the end game of this current situation with Seth following his Money in the Bank cash-in, being the world champion, taking off the brace, throwing away the crutches, all of that stuff. Look, the tone of this feud has very much been that Seth Rollins annoys the hell out of CM Punk and keeps getting the better of him. And the biggest escalation of that so far did come at SummerSlam with the world title nonsense, taking it from Punk after he had been champion for just 5 minutes, I think it was, at the end of the night. The ultimate story of pro wrestling is that the babyface wins in the end, usually. So Punk is going to get that win over him. He's probably going to take the title from him. Now, look, this is probably going to be a longer-term thing. I don't think they would want to compromise Rollins' heel run quite yet. So I think it'll be a matter of months rather than weeks before we see anything like that happen. I don't think Seth's going to lose the belt after like 3 weeks. Drop it in Paris or something like that. But he might. Who knows? Either way, I think that is the logical direction for these two to head in. Maybe you have several months of Punk overcoming roadblocks. Maybe he faces Bronson first, Braun as well. Throw all these obstacles in his way until he finally gets the shot. It's kind of classic pro wrestling babyface fodder. And then maybe the Punker will have a reign that lasts longer than 5 minutes. There's no more briefcases anymore, so great chance of that happening. Number 2 is Cody Rhodes slowly turning. Now, look, this video is not a list of things that I want to happen. I think turning Cody Rhodes heel would be very stupid. I think that, you know, these wrestlers, these baby faces, these franchise players who carry the company and are so great at every aspect of the game, from the in-ring, to the promos, to the character work, to the being an ambassador, to the doing the meet and greets, to the being very professional in interviews and looking great in a suit. These wrestlers are one in a million. They're one in a generation. They don't come along often, and when they're here, you should cling on to them for dear life and not change too much about them. However, this is a promotion that is very focused now on moments, right? Rather than these sprawling epic odysseys and fictional voyages with myriad different directions. It's all about getting to that big moment for WWE with a capital M. John Cena's heel turn is a good example of that. They kind of did that without thinking too much about the follow-up, to the point they had to retcon it, or at least just scrap it, before SummerSlam when he wrestled Cody. Cody was a bit nastier than usual at SummerSlam, but it was a street fight, so the stipulation allowed that. But there were a few signs in there as well, and there have been throughout. Occasionally he gets like the odd rogue chorus of boos from audiences, but I still think he's extremely over. As a slow-burning thing, I can see this being something they might do to get that big villain moment out of the way. Would the follow-up be any good? I'm not so sure, and I'm not so sure it's the best idea, but hey, we'll see if it happens. And entry number 1, of course, is Brock Lesnar versus John Cena. It's a match we've seen many, many times before in WWE. They are great career rivals, and they're going to run it back. Looks like SmackDown might be the base for this rivalry because Cena is on SmackDown this week. There was no sign of either of these guys on Raw, outside of Michael Cole mentioning that he sat down with Triple H and Nick Khan and mentioned Brock coming back a few weeks ago. So that kind of addressed some of the stuff regarding him returning, at least in the kayfabe world. So they're going to run this back. I don't get the impression that this is something that will last all the way until Cena's retirement. I don't think that Brock will be Cena's final opponent. But according to Triple H, Cena did request to work with Brock, and that's one of the reasons he was brought back. But it's weird to me because Triple H is the booker. He makes the... John Cena's not Nick Khan, you know what I mean? Look, the thing with situations like this is always the same. Major companies will wait until they feel like the blowback or the outrage, if you will, has subsided enough. They'll wait, you know, when it's at its peak, they won't use controversial people. They'll wait a while and then they'll see if they can get away with it. They're not thinking about ethics of any of this. They're not acting with morality. It's a can we get away with this and can we make money question to these companies. They are pretty damn cold. That is the judgment call they have made with Brock Lesnar. They opted to bring him back. It caused, quite a lot of conversation, including on this channel. We have many videos up about this situation already. But they have brought him back now, and the match is happening. What happens with Brock after that, we're not too sure. Look, it could be just this one-off program. It could be more. Who knows? He was never suspended by WWE, but because he wasn't being used, they might be able to extend the length of his contract for the time he was away, which was almost 2 years. So we'll see what comes out in the wash regarding that. However, they are definitely going down the route of this feud as part of John Cena's retirement tour, and maybe there'll be more after that as well. But hey, thank you for joining me on this video. I've been Andy. I'll see you later. And if you enjoyed this, check out this. The algorithm thinks you are going to absolutely adore it. Bye.